Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest. I don't know why I'm saying all that, it's already in the intro, but we're here at my little tavern, the Golden Eagle, today to answer some of your questions. I know I've been a little slower about uploading videos here lately, and I do apologize for that, but it's the time of the year, you know, holidays and all that stuff. We also, Kim and I, took on the responsibility of helping care for my daughter's cousins from time to time, you know, in between houses when they get off school. Our house is closer to the school. Their mom works in the medical field, so we often bring them to the house, do the homework, or if there's extracurricular activities, etc. It makes more sense for them to come to our house and hang out. So it's been a very busy time, along with a lot of travel on my end, tastings, plus the Mount Vernon thing and all that stuff, and a bunch of projects that I'm working on. A bunch of, you know, legal distilling projects, trying to get all my ducks in a row as I get a little older, have some ownership in some things, and do the things that I'm really passionate about that I can actually make money off of to help take care of my family for generations to come, I hope. That's the goal, anyways. So, you have to excuse me, my sinuses are, as always, messed up, and I'm smoking on top of it. Yes, I know, I'm taking the Axl Rose treatment methodology very seriously. Anyways, as always, if you have questions, reach out to me, bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. thealchemistcabinet.com, where you can buy all of our books and our DVDs, social media, and or the YouTube comments below. If I don't answer you fairly quickly, don't think anything of it. I oftentimes do miss emails that come in, or do miss specifically the comments on YouTube videos and catch those later. So let's get into today's question. So, silicone versus PTFE. Hello, Alan. I've been going over all of your YouTube videos as I've recently discovered them. I started home distilling back in 2019 on a small 5-gallon copper pot with a thumper and worm. I started my interest in spirits through a fascination of mezcal. Anyways, I saw your video where you were reviewing a Chinese still, and I believe you said you either replaced or added food-grade gaskets, I believe. Everything I read says not to use silicone because of its reaction to ethanol. So my question is, do you use silicone gaskets? Are they okay to use if they are food grade? I'm curious because I've recently upgraded to a 26-gallon still with an 8-inch manway, and the manway came with silicone gaskets. The manufacturer is producing some PTFE gaskets to replace the silicone, but I was curious if I could run it while I'm waiting. I've included a picture of my new still. Thank you for your time. It's a beautiful still, by the way. Absolutely love it. If it was a larger picture that I printed off, I'd show it to you guys. All right, so we've been over the silicone thing in the past, I think once or twice, and there is a video on the channel where I show off a silicone gasket that had been in my 1,200-gallon still for quite a long time. This method has raged on, or this debate has raged on and on and on throughout home distilling circles for years and years and years and years and years. I prefer PTFE, but there's nothing wrong with silicone. Every single commercial distillery you go to likely has some percentage of silicone gaskets. While alcohol will over time eat silicone, it takes a long time. A 2-inch silicone gasket at the top of my 1,200-gallon still head literally will last me 2 or 3 years before it starts to degrade at all. This is a still that is being run at least 3 times a week with 1,200 gallons of mash going through it, to put that in perspective. A silicone gasket and a 2-inch opening on one of my smaller doubling stills, a 650 or 350-gallon still, will last 2 or 3 years before it starts to degrade. And I'm not entirely sure it's the ethanol that's actually degrading it, as opposed to the fact that the still always moves just a little bit while it's running. There's expansion and contraction. It usually always happens at the ridge on the silicone gasket on the circle starts to break loose, and I think that's because everything shifts a little bit with thermal expansion and contraction, right? Again, pretty much every still producer out there will use silicone gaskets. Pretty much every commercial producer out there will use silicone gaskets. I would not be afraid of them at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing wrong with them. They are an accepted standard within the industry. Food grade silicone, of course, obviously, where you can have it. You know, I would not advise using them on a tank where you're holding spirits, where they're going to be in contact with that spirit in any way, shape, or form. to where they're under, constant pressure from the ethanol eating away at them over time, right? But that's different than using them in distilling equipment where they're only in contact with ethanol for a very short amount of time and typically in vapor form. I can verify, like I said, that they don't fall apart nearly as quickly as what you would think they would. It's funny that, to me, this is not even a debate in the professional industry at all. This is not something that comes up in conversation in any way, shape, or form. And maybe that's because we're around it all the time, so we know the properties of these materials that we're using versus a home distiller trying to learn those properties. But I really only ever see this debate amongst home distillers. And you will see everything from, no, you can't use silicone at all, and you have to use PTFE, or you have to use, whatever, neoprene or whatever else is out there. Or all the way down to the purists who are like, man, the only thing that ever touches anything that I make is bread dough. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But it's not nearly as detrimental or near as much of a problem as what people would tend to think it is, especially in the professional industry. So yeah, run your still with the silicone gaskets. It's not going to hurt anything. If they make you uncomfortable, switch them out. But I think you'd be surprised how long that silicone will absolutely hold up. To be honest with you, it seems like the silicone holds up better in the vapor path than any of the other materials do over time. A lot of the other materials tend to dry rot a lot faster when they're in the vapor path. So I hope that answered your question. And I hope it wasn't too snarky or anything. I wasn't trying to be. It's just, I've had that conversation with people so many times. Like the fact that it's still going on all the forums and stuff like that is absolutely, it just surprises me, right? And I think a lot of times it's people who, there's a certain subset of people in every hobby out there who think they know everything, and they're determined that you must do everything the way that they tell you to do it. And so they keep bringing up the old things over and over and over again. And it confuses and confounds people who are newer to the hobbies. It doesn't do anything to help. It just confuses and confounds them. And typically, they're the kind of people that don't do an eighth of the number of distillations that I would do in a single year, not to mention the number of years that I've been doing it, But if you're not comfortable with it, definitely switch it out. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of gasket material out there. So looks like we've got time for another one in this video. So let me see if I can find one that's shorter and see what it says. So, all right. So this goes back to the video that we did about aging single malt, I believe. Yes. So just watch your video with regards to maturing single malt whiskeys. As always, appreciate the feedback and info you provide. Speaking of oats in a mash bill, when you use oats in a mash bill, either personally or professionally, do you somehow remove the husk from the oats, or is the husk left on the oat when running it through the grain mill, then added directly to the cooker? Milled grain and husk all together, ? So it kind of depends on what I'm doing, Jeff. So, a lot of times at home, I'm just using ready oats, right? You just throw the hot water to them, and they're ready to go. So they are husked. That's when I'm adding them in small proportions of stuff like the neutral I've talked about before with the oats and the raisins and the sugar and that sort of stuff. I just realized, and I have to point this out because if I don't, one of you guys is going to see it and laugh your ass off. I can't believe I just realized it, but remember I told you about those cousins that are at our house? So I haven't even got around to removing this because I forgot I had it on my fingers till just now. This is what happens when you have two 8-year-olds in your house and you tell them they can paint your fingernails for funsies when they're both little girls. So, I do have painted fingernails. Enjoy, laugh, smile. Life is too short to take anything too seriously. Anyways, when it comes to doing all grain whiskeys and it comes to oats, I'm buying whole oats, right? They've got the husk and all on them, just like when I use wheat or rye. Yeah, those husks are getting ground and they're going right in there, just like with the wheat and the rye oftentimes. Not always, but sometimes, let me take that back. The wheat and the rye don't have husks. The barley has husks. So sorry about that. I got confused there for a minute. Buy the glittery nail polish. Anyways, just like with the barley malt, or if I use raw barley, it's going in with the husks on it. It doesn't affect the flavor in a negative way, I don't think. In fact, I like the kind of flavor of bran that comes through. And oftentimes, even in a sugar shine distillation, I like to throw a little bit of wheat bran into a sugar shine distillation to get a little bit more of that earthy sort of character that sort of comes across. So yeah, I use the oats whole as they are, as they come in with the husk and everything on them. Doesn't seem to hurt anything whatsoever as far as flavor goes. I like the complexity of the flavor that I get from it. And I wouldn't be afraid of doing that if you're playing around with oats at home. So sorry for the confusion on the rye and the wheat, but again, got a little distracted by the sparkly fingernails. So as always, reach out to me, guys. I mentioned where you can find me earlier, bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And please support thealchemistcabinet.com, buy our books, etc. I know some of you bought books, you're waiting to get them. We did just start getting those in from Amazon, so those are starting to be signed now and sent back out. So, all right, guys, love y'all. Later.